Hello and welcome to Marketing Speak. I'm your host, Stephan Spencer, and it is my pleasure and honor to have Dr. John Demartini with us. Dr. Demartini is a world-leading human behavior specialist, researcher, best-selling author, educator, and founder of the Demartini Method, a revolutionary tool in modern psychology. He has authored 40 books that have been translated into 39 different languages, and he's presented his insights alongside some of the world's most influential people, including Sir Richard Branson and Deepak Chopra. Harnessing almost 5 decades of research across multiple disciplines, Dr. Demartini shares his life, business, financial, relationship, and leadership empowerment strategies with people all over the globe, enabling them to transform their lives according to their highest values. John, it's so great to have you on the show.
Yes, thank you for being patient with me getting here today.
It's such a pleasure. And so you've been on my other podcast, Get Yourself Optimized, a couple of times. We've had some really powerful conversations. I've attended some of your events, which are phenomenal, including the Breakthrough Experience, which is one of your keystone events. It's a 2-day, or is it 2 or 3-day workshop?
2 day. Yep.
2-day, yeah. Feels like 3 days because you really pack it in. It's really, really good stuff. And I'm curious because this is a marketing show. Let's start talking about how you market these events and your personal brand. You're on so many different podcasts. You've been on so many different TV shows, and you've been in movies like The Secret and so forth. You're everywhere. It's really impressive, and I'm curious if you have any particular strategies that stand out for you as kind of the secrets to your success.
A relentless pursuit of what I love doing. That's the first one. I've had a dream to travel the world and teach since I was 17. And I wrote down, I wanted to go to every country on the face of the earth. I've spoken in 181 countries now, which is
Wow.
Still haven't got all of them. I'm still working. But I had a dream to do that since I was 17. And I'm 68, just a couple of weeks. So I've been doing it a while. I can't say that I'm the marketing genius by any means. I've just been on a relentless pursuit to do it. And somehow I prioritize what I did. I'm relatively good at researching, writing, and presenting. And my core competence is presenting. And researching, I'm pretty good at. And writing, I just got 3 new books coming out this next month here. And so I'm able to do that.
Yeah.
But the marketing is mainly just me speaking. And I don't mind. I hired publicists, I hired people that do everything. And their job, that's their love. That's what they do. And they seem to would you like to have them on the podcast? Or sometimes we just get them called in. And I just said, I'm willing to do whatever it takes to get my message out. So I've done about 9,000 interviews on radio and television, and I think about 3,000 to 4,000, 3,500 podcasts now. So I just do this. There'll be 5 today, and I sometimes do 2 to 5 a day. And I just, I'm on a mission. And between that, I'm doing writing a book or doing podcast or doing consulting or something that keeps me busy. I would get in trouble if I wasn't keeping busy doing what I love, I think. So I just do that 7 days a week. I'm a bit of a crazy guy that just loves doing what I do.
Yeah.
So I don't have this magic, this is the formula and how to market yourself. I don't know that. I realize that if I concentrate on what I'm most master, my core competence, and deliver that in a way that inspires, and then realize what needs to be done and delegate that to people who are more inspired to do that I'll get more done than me trying to do all that. I'll get overwhelmed trying to do it all myself. So I just want to make sure that I'm doing something that serves people enough where they'll want to buy what I'm doing so I can afford to delegate it. And so
Yeah.
and I made a commitment to, research, right? I made a list of every possible vehicle, and that list has continued to grow as social media came in. So I think when I was 21, I wanted to make a contribution enough to be recognized in 1,000 books. We're over 700 now. And then I wanted to be able to write 1,000 books. And there's about 300 and something books now. And then I wanted to do radio and television and newspapers and magazines. I've written for 1,531 magazines. And
Wow.
so I keep a document, a metric on everything that I get to do to see, am I really committed to it? And if I'm not, it'll show. And if I am, I need to modify the strategy or hire somebody or do something. So I mapped out a strategy on how to reach the world, and I just started doing it and just kept attracting, slowly but surely a team. Overnight success took 30, 40 years. I just kept building a team of people that would do it. And you're one of those. So you helped us too. So it's not my genius. My genius is only teach, research, and write. Outside that, I'm pretty well a klutz.
You're very adept at what you do, and it shows. And you've got such a huge tribe of people following you and listening to what you have to say. It's really impressive. You're really changing the world, and I'm curious, what
Well,
are some of
if you
these?
do something,
Yeah.
if you do something long enough, everybody dies out, and you get somewhere.
So if
Just got to stay. You got to stay living long enough to do it.
That's funny. Okay, so if we could have a hypothetical peek at your metrics that you measure to see if you're on track or off track. You mentioned number of interviews and podcasts and magazine articles, etc. What are some of the other
Should I show
metrics?
you one?
Yeah.
Okay. So every time I do a podcast, I keep record of the podcast. This is this year. So this is this year's podcast.
Wow.
Okay. And then on the magazines, for instance, see, these are all the magazines I either written for or write for or have articles in or whatever. I keep record of them alphabetically.
And is that since the beginning of time, or is that this year?
This one's, as far as I can tell, there's a small group of ones that I've got that are the first 10 years of marking out that I haven't merged with it yet.
Okay.
So when I add those to it, it'll probably be around 1,500 and maybe 75 or something. Because I haven't had those yet, but it's all pretty well updated last year. So I keep records of those. And I also keep records of professional speakers that I've spoken on, all the companies I've consulted for. Anything that I keep a metrics on that I set out to do, I have a metric on all the cities I've spoken in, which is over 2,060 cities now. Every country, I've been to every continent, all the countries I've got documented, all the cities I've documented. I keep record of that. And people say, why do you do that? It's because I had a dream to do those things. And the only way I know I'm getting my dream is to document when I get it, when I'm doing it. So I keep a record of them all. And then I have a master list that keeps a record of what I do every day that I'm grateful for. And those two are really helpful. And I'll fill it in. So as I get, like, I'm doing your podcast now.
Mm-hmm.
That will go on to daily to thank yous, the gratitudes for the day. And it'll also go on to podcast. And then when I do a speaking engagement, if it's a keynote, if it's a webinar, it's a seminar, if it's whatever it may be, I've got it documented. So I have a better idea of how to plan out the year also, and also look at what I'm able to do and how to manage my time more effectively. So I keep record of that. And because if I say I want to do something, I'm only committed if I'm metricing it. I found it's like a company. If you're going to run a major company, if you don't keep some sort of governance and control over it. You're not really, it's running you, you're not running it. So I'm a firm believer in documenting what I set out to do. And all the disciplines that I've studied, for a long time, I was keeping record of every book, and that's a bit sloppy lately. That one needs to be updated. But every time I read, I document what I've read. It's 30,700 books almost now. So I'm constantly documenting that because my goal is to a certain level, and I wanted to achieve that. So I'm a firm believer in setting a goal and then metricing it to get the goal. And when it comes to reaching people, we try to get a metric on roughly how many people are watching the shows. I used to have a company. I was able to delegate it to a company in South Africa for a while. Every time I did radio or television or newspapers or magazines, they gave me the stats on who's reading that, how many are watching it, how many people are opening that article, everything. And so I know how many people are probably reading that and how many people I'm touching the lives of. And I kept an inventory of all the people that I'm touching because that was important to me. And then I've got records of all the thank you letters I get. I mean, I'm a nut for metrics. And I found it gives me tremendous amount of gratitude to see those things being fulfilled and a great amount of inspiration to want to continue to build momentum doing it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and the old adage, what gets measured gets managed, I believe to be true.
I think that's some truth, and I'm very grateful. I get a lot of tears of gratitude daily from this, and because I get to do what I love, that I set out to do when I was 17. I get to do it every day.
Yeah, amazing. Have you been in very many movies? I know The Secret, of course. That's how I first heard of you, actually, was watching that movie.
54 filmings.
Mm-hmm.
54 filmings. We've got another one that's coming up that we're filming in about not even 2 weeks, about 12 days, that we'll be finishing up one. We just did one on autism. I just did another one on longevity, another one on youth, and then we just got asked to do one with Johnny Depp. So I'm there. We did a preliminary film for that. So there's something called I think it's called The Respondent, because it's about his divorce thing or whatever they're doing a movie on. So they asked me to be on it, be part of the psychology interviewing part of it.
Wow.
So yeah, I'm 54. We've done, not all of them are out yet. Some of them are still in the making, and some have financial issues sometimes getting out. But yeah, we've gotten to do quite a few films. I always said that I wanted to be in the movies. When I was in my 20s, I said, I want to be in the movies, but I don't want to be an actor. I want to be myself. So that's pretty well all the different films we've gotten to do have been just being me, which I like. I don't have to put on any actor, I think.
Yeah. Well, I learned in Kabbalah that if you have desire for something, let's say it's to be in movies and to play yourself, that desire is there because you've already achieved the fulfillment or received the fulfillment. It just hasn't materialized yet in the physical plane. Do you believe
Exactly.
that one?
Well, I always say it's impossible for me not to fulfill my mission, for it's my destiny. And it's not in the future, it's in the now. And so all I do is just see it in my mind's eye. And once I can articulate it fluently and congruently, it's just a matter of the people, places, things, ideas, and events to come into reality and make it manifest. So I'm a believer in that. Yep.
Yeah. When you say it's in the now, that reminds me of something I learned last year, that time is an illusion, that past, present, and future are all happening simultaneously. And on the other side of the veil, in the upper worlds, it's all the eternal now. Time doesn't even exist. What's your take on that? I know this is not marketing related, but
neuroscience, and even in neuroscience, this is wisdom. Brian Cox describes in an article just that I read this morning about space and time being emergent functions of a deeper form of reality. But he wasn't saying that he was describing panpsychism, but it was almost that. He was kind of hinting. But in the study of neuroscience, they found out just 3.5 years ago that, or at least started to be published then, that for every episodic memory that involves storing information of the past, the hippocampus, the grid cells and place cells, and the arrangement of that simultaneously creates an imagination. So the two are actually two trajectories that are present at the same time. So actually, they're changing it from episodic memory to episodic now, episodic moment. So really, the truth is that our mind will automatically, if it has a trajectory into the past, it simultaneously counterbalances it with a trajectory in the future to counterbalance it, so we maintain a homeostatic now. So there is now, it's scientifically, it's demonstrated.
Mm-hmm.
William James, 1895, in his book on the principles of psychology, said that within every memory is imagination, with every imagination is memory. And the inseparable are only separated by the conscious and unconscious minds being divided.
You have an amazing
So
memory.
the second we judge, we divide it up and make this illusion of the arrow of time, which is entropy, which makes us age. Our mortal self, not our immortal self.
Yeah, this is deep stuff. I love it. This is why I have a podcast all about this sort of thing. So if you listener are enjoying this conversation, you really should subscribe to Get Yourself Optimized. That's definitely going to be worth your time. Okay, so John, I've been watching some Gaia shows. So Gaia is a streaming network with. I'm sure you're familiar with it, right? You're familiar with Gaia TV?
Yeah, I don't watch a lot of TV, but I'm familiar with that. Yes,
Yeah,
because that's something where that's worth watching.
Yeah, it is. I don't watch hardly any TV or streaming stuff other than things that will help me with my mission. But this is, I think, something that could be an opportunity for you is to have your own show on Gaia. Like I've been watching something on sacred geometry. The show is actually called Sacred Geometry on Gaia, and it is amazing. And imagine if you had a show like that. I'd be rapt watching that. So just an idea to add to your list
Well,
if you're interested.
yeah, I wouldn't mind exploring that. I'd be glad to do. I love doing any show, any TV, radio, any kind of shows or any movies or anything like that. I'd grab them.
Yeah.
So,
But this would be
guys,
your
sounds
own show.
pretty cool.
I think you need your own show. That's just my thought.
I may have to get your advice on how to do that. I do my teaching research where I put a team together to put that together so I can just show up for that.
Yeah. So Gaia would be the team that would put it together. You would be the talent. You'd just show up, and they'd tell you where to stand and sit, and what how to look at which camera to look at, and all that, and you just do your magic. Yeah.
Well, I'll make a note of that, and we'll explore that.
Yeah, I think that'd be really cool. Let's talk a bit about gratitude and how that relates to business and marketing and reaching people and having an impact. Like I of course, I know that it is very important, but some listeners may not see that connection so much. I wouldn't have seen it so much years ago. I would have just said, "Oh, that's a nice thing to do." It's kind of like an affirmation, or it's like um, going to the gym, getting some good endorphins going, or something like that. No, it's much more deep and important than that. So, do you want to speak about that?
Yeah, I'd like to share a story. I was in Chicago, and a doctor, Arculeo, asked me to come up and consult with him. And I was going to spend the day with him in his office, kind of polishing up his office to help him grow his business, scale it up. And the night before, we had dinner. And I asked him a simple question. And I got a piece of paper out, and I wrote it down. And I said, I want you to give me the name of every patient that you can recall their full name. And I'm going to say go, and you're going to rattle them off nonstop, one after another, saying their name. And the second you pause for more than a second, I'm going to stop. And I'm going to share something with you. And he goes, okay. And he started rattling off names. And I just kept going down and making a line for each one. I totaled them up, and it was 68. He had 68 names before he paused and had to think of a next name. And then I said, how many days a week do you work? He said, I work generally, 4 days. I usually take Thursday, Saturday, and Sunday off. I said, so in 4 days, if you multiply 4 times 68, that's 32, 240, that's 272. Do you see around 275 patients a week? He goes, yes. It's almost to the letter exactly what I say. How did you guess that? I said, very simply, out of sight, out of mind. Now, here's your homework tonight, because I'm here to grow your practice. I want you to memorize 1,000 names. I want you to start tonight and start memorizing the names and refresh your names, because if they're out of your mind, they're out of your practice. If your innermost dominant thought is not your patient's, can't expect them to have the innermost dominant thought to be your practice. So I made him go home and memorize 1,000 names.
And
Now,
did he?
he started that night. He didn't get 1,000 that night, but he added about another 30, another 32. And so he wrote down the names and he started thinking them through and he started reading them. So when he came in, he thought about them. Now, he averaged on average between 1 and 2 new patients a day. Sometimes 2, maybe 3, but on average 1 to 2, about 1.7 patients a day on average. We had 5 patients new that next day. And 2 of them were the people that he thought of, that he wrote the names down the night before.
No way.
2 of them showed back up in his office and brought somebody. And so I said, if you take 1,000 names and you go through them and have your staff all read those names and think about those people and think about them and their names, their kids' names, what they do for a living, and really get engaged with them, 20% of those people will show up in your business. I've done this with over 1,000 clinics. I've proven this. And so he did. Now his practice went from 275 to 600 over the next year, a week, and had to hire new docs to manage it. And he says, because now my focus is not all my distractions. I've delegated that. My focus is now serving my people. Then I asked him to do one thing. At the end of the night, after we finished staying in his office all day, I made him make a list of everybody he saw without looking at the appointment book to see if he was present with them, because if he did, he'd know who he saw. And he had to write all the names of people he saw and write a 1-line thank you to what they taught him that day. And just something to be grateful for. Because when you're grateful for what you have, you get more to be grateful for. So I made him grateful to stop and go, what, and not make anything up. What are you grateful for what they taught you today? And don't put some BS down. Just what are you grateful? What did you learn from them? And I guarantee you that will increase volume, referrals, enthusiasm. It'll put you in the different frame of mind. Peter Lynch, in his One Up on Wall Street back in the 90s, who was with Fidelity Money Management. In that book, I summarized it and I got an essence out of it. And he said, after he does his quantitative and technical analysis to determine the stocks and companies to buy, he then gets on a plane and goes and visits the headquarters to see what's the actual headquarters like. Because otherwise he's just looking at numbers, he's not looking at people. And he says, and he found that there were basically 6 things that if he sees these 6 things, he's going to invest in it. He says, if the people are grateful for their job, they love what they're doing, they're inspired by the vision, they're enthusiastically working, high energy, they're confident and certain about their skills, and they're present while they do it, if you invest in that company, you're going to make money because it's going to go up in value, because it starts with gratitude.
Yeah.
So gratitude has an impact on business without a question.
Yeah. Amazing. I love that. I recently made God my business partner, and that's been a huge game changer. And let me restate it as this: I requested that God be my business partner, and He said yes. And we are going to have uh, record-breaking revenues for this year that are higher than the last 12 years. So this is our best year in 12 since this business, this one that I started after I left the previous company that I had gotten, where they had acquired my company, and I worked there for a short time. So I started this company 12 years ago. This is the best year. And I have no doubt that it is because God's my business partner. And it might sound hokey for some listeners. Probably not that many, because if they're still listening to this show, they've gotten used to my spiritual stance on things. But uh, yeah, I learned that from a previous guest on my other show on Get Yourself Optimized. His name is Curtis Thomas. He's a breathwork expert. He's got these online courses, and he has he does big group Zoom-based breathwork uh, exercises and stuff. He's really good, really good. So he talked in the interview about how he has God as his business partner. It's incredible. It's I tie that into the whole gratitude discussion, because when you're grateful, you have you're connected to the bigger picture, versus when you're
Well,
in
there,
kind of
there's two
material
forms.
world.
The first form of gratitude is when somebody does something that you think supports your values, and you go, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. It's kind of a superficial gratitude.
Yeah.
And then there's a deep gratitude when you at first see something you think is challenging, but you look again, dig deeper, and ask questions that breaks you through the unconscious and makes you fully conscious. And then you realize that there was a higher order in your apparent chaos, a hidden order. And now you have a grace where you realize, wow, my own limited understanding judges things, but there's a higher order in what's happening here, and I just discovered it. Thank you. And that is the gratitude that makes things, as you say, synchronously happen.
Yeah.
And I'm a firm believer of that. That's why I keep my gratitude journal every day. I don't like to go to bed. I learned from an Indian mystic when I was 23 to not go to bed until you've run through the day, and anything in that day that you can't see on the way, that you saw in the way, that you're ungrateful for, go back and look at it from a deeper perspective into to on the way, so you don't accumulate in your subconscious mind a day that wasn't thank you. So that's a ritual started at age 23.
Mm, that's so cool. That reminds me of another ritual that I learned from Harville Hendricks. He's the creator of Imago Couples Therapy and the author of the book Getting the Love You Want. He was also a guest on my other show. And he's been doing this practice for like 20 years now, at least, with his wife every night before going to sleep. Without fail, they will share at least 3 things they're grateful for with each other, of from the other partner. Like, grateful to that partner for what they've done or who they are, or something from the past that was a beautiful memory or something. There three things at least. And yeah, my wife Ryan and I, we've done that. We don't do it. We fell out of that habit, I have to admit. We haven't done it for a while now, but we did it for at least 3 years nonstop. Maybe we missed a day here or there, but it was probably maybe 20 days out of a year that we would have missed. It's a game changer. Yeah. Have you
Well,
done that
when you're,
exercise?
as my mom said to me, when you're grateful for what you have, you get more to be grateful for.
Yeah.
And there's nothing not to be grateful for. If you don't see it with something of thanks, you're not seeing the truth. You're not seeing the whole picture yet.
Yep.
You're seeing a subjectively biased interpretation of your reality, not the objective truth.
Yeah. I specifically write down in my gratitude journal things I'm grateful for that are challenges. Yeah, I've been doing that for
Yes,
a year or
exactly.
so, a year and a half. Yeah, what I'm grateful for that is a challenge helps me to see it in a new perspective. Even if I don't see it at that moment, at least it opens the door for me to see that later on. And if I'm only writing down the things that I enjoyed, then I'm not. That it's like I'm thumbing my nose at the blessings that are yet to be revealed. Because this I also learned from Kabbalah. I guess it's just Judaism in general, is that everything is a blessing, and some blessings are revealed, and some blessings are yet to be revealed. The unrevealed blessings are things like, oh, that terrible car crash that then years later I ended up meeting my soulmate because we were at the it's the same whatever auto body shop or what, I don't know, I'm just making something up, but the idea that everything leads to or contributes to your highest and best good is a truth that you can't necessarily see when you're in the thick of it, but you got to leave the space in order to do so and say, all right, I'm going to take the time to do this gratitude journaling or to do this meditation so that I can at least glimpse it, even if I'm in the middle of a firefight or forest fire.
Well, I'm a firm believer that, I've been teaching the breakthrough experience, and I have people with all kinds of things that people come in there with. They're angry about this, resentful of that, had this happen, trauma, whatever it may be. And I ask them a new set of questions that makes them see things that they didn't see before until they say thank you and I love you to whoever is involved.
Mm-hmm.
And then they don't have to carry that around anymore. It's baggage is turned into fuel.
Yeah.
Gravity is turned into radiation.
Yep. Amazing. Amazing. So you're familiar with the Ho'oponopono prayer, right?
Yep. I've been, but I'm a firm believer that there's already a perfection, so I don't have to pray for a perfection, or I'd have to hope for a perfection. I have to think it's going to get perfect. I just have to go and dig a little deeper and discover it's already here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
There's a hidden order in the apparent chaos. And so I've worked at developing questions, as you know, to help me see past my own illusion so I can then honor what is as it is instead of impose onto what is what I think it should be. And that's where people get trapped. They have the amygdala wanting a pleasure without a pain or a one-sided outcome instead of embracing the two sides of life. And we need the two sides of life to keep us centered.
Yeah. I think a better definition of prayer rather than asking or requesting things of God is just simply being in
Thank you.
conversation with God, talking to God.
Thank you.
Yeah. Right.
Just thank you.
Thank you is, yeah, absolutely. Thank you as a
Thank
prayer.
you.
So the
Exactly.
Ho'oponopono prayer for our listener who isn't familiar with it is simple. It's just thank you. Or it starts, I guess, with please forgive me. Sorry, I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Thank you. I love you. And I guess that could be in any order, but I use that as a kind of a scaffolding for a full conversation if I'm going to have it with somebody. If it's a person that I'm not in communication with anymore, maybe they've passed away or maybe they won't speak to me or whatever, I'll call in Archangel Gabriel and ask him to relay the message for me. But if I at least say those four statements and mean them, it changes the energy of the situation. If I'm in conflict with a person, it really right sets it, if that's a word.
Yeah, I even go in one little step beyond that because we only perceive others making a mistake when we project our values onto them and expect them to live in our values.
Mm.
And we only imagine ourselves making a mistake when we've injected other people's values into us and expected us to live in their values. But we're not making mistakes in a divine, perfect universe here. We're not making a mistake in our own values. It's only when we try to be somebody we're not, or having other people try to be somebody they're not. So I don't even go with the idea of, I'm sorry, I forgive, because that's me not understanding the hidden order and what my role is and their role is in the dynamic. I just say, thank you, I love you, and go and discover the hidden order in it. And then, so I don't even have anything to, because even if you're saying, I forgive you, you're assuming that somehow that was a mistake, or I forgive you, or I'm sorry. Those are assuming there were mistakes in there. And I go, I want to go even deeper in finding out the order in that. So those aren't even mistakes, because otherwise I'm saying there's a divine perfection that's omnipresent, and then I'm going and denying it in those moments. So I even go, just thank you, I love you, and dig for those things that I want to get to a point with. So there's nothing there to say I'm sorry or forgive me about. Because in the breakthrough experience, when people finish my method, nobody says I'm sorry or I forgive you. They just say thank you, I love you. So I'd rather go in and ask the questions and see it so perfectly that there's nothing there to even judge in the first place. Otherwise, I'm not complete.
Yeah. Well, I also learned this in Kabbalah, that when you're judging, you're not loving. And when you're loving, you're not judging. It's binary.
Yeah. So when you're judging and you're saying, I'm sorry, you assume that what you did was wrong, or what you forgive you, that what they did was wrong. So I just bypass that, go right into thank you, I love you, and look at what my misinterpretation was. Be accountable for my misinterpretation, because the divine perfection has been forsaken if I start from that perspective.
Right. So you talked about imposing values on another and how that leads to trouble. How does that fit into companies with their core values and mission statement on the wall, sort of thing? And isn't that imposing values on all the team members and the?
If it's ineffectively done, see, that's something that I confront in companies, because there's no values to a company. There's values to people, and people make up the company. So if I imagine if I self-righteously assume that my values were right and my employees were less important than mine, and my customers were even less important than mine, or the employees, and then I projected my values onto the customer, they're not going to buy. They're not interested in my values. They're interested in fulfilling theirs. And my employees, if they're autocratic, they're not interested in subordinating. They're interested in engaging in something that's meaningful to them. So an autocratic person or an autocratic leader will try to impose values downhill to them. And I'd rather go and find out what my values are, find out what their values already are, because nobody goes to work for the sake of a company. They go to work to fulfill their values. And then master the art of communicating what I would love, just like I would to a customer, in terms of what their values are. Customers will respond beautifully if you do. So the art of communicating, that's what I teach people, how to communicate what you really would love to have happen, your values, in terms of their values, which means you have to ask the question, what are their values and how does it help me fulfill mine? The more I answer that question, the more I'm able to do that. In Tokyo, a few years ago, I was teaching 66 consultants value applications. And we went through and determined each of their values independently with my value determination process, which is a 13-step questionnaire you're familiar with. Once we did that, we partnered them in twos. So we had 33 couples. None of these people knew each other, because that was the criteria, that they had to be with somebody they've not met with. They don't know. And then what happened was they had to go and take the top three values of this individual and the top three values of this individual and ask, how specifically is this individual fulfilling their top value? How's that helping you fulfill yours? At first you go, I don't know, but your job is to find the link. And then how's your top value fulfill theirs? And then how's their top value help you the second one and the third one? and your first one to the second person? And how does their second one help all three? And they spent about 2.5 hours linking the values of people they didn't know anything about and just linking values. And by the time they were through, the degree of dialogue instead of alternating monologues skyrocketed. The degree of respect went up. And out of the 33 couples, people, pairs, 27 of them were in business with each other and started doing business with each other. They never knew each other. But because they could see now how they could help fulfill theirs and how they could do this, they leveled the playing field. See, if you think your values are superior to somebody else, you'll talk down to them carelessly. And you'll be more of an autocrat and narcissist expecting to get something from them. If you minimize yours and exaggerate theirs, you'll walk around in eggshells carefully, worrying about the loss of them in your life. But if you level the playing field and see how both help each other's values, you'll have caring, which just keeps rings on the fingers in relationships. And now you'll see how what they're dedicated to is what's going to help you, and what you're dedicated to is going to help them. And there's a natural, organic response to want to engage and want to participate in helping each other get their goals. So there's no autocratic system of top-down values to people. And if you hire somebody and you don't know what their values are, and you hire somebody to do a job, but that's not what inspires them, you're going to end up being an autocrat, motivating them in punishment reward systems, which are the least effective strategies of marketing and building a business. Motivation is a symptom, not a solution. But if you find out what their highest values are and find out what the job description matches it, they'll be engaged, and you don't have to micromanage them. They'll go and do a greater job than you because that's what they love doing. And then you don't have to push them and autocratically, say, this is what you have to do. You just appreciate them because they're helping you get what you want. So caring enough about another human being to find out what they value most, and then communicating and articulating respectfully your values in terms of that, is far more profound in building a business and engaging people and in maintaining relationships than an autocratic top-down authority of some artificial value system that a company has that nobody's living by. It's a moral hypocrisy.
Yeah. Well, I've had many employees and contractors over the years do your values determination process as part of the hiring or onboarding process, just like they would do the Strengths Finder assessment, the DISC assessment. They would do the values determination process on drdemartini.com. And it's so great to be able to have that and understand what drives them, and then to associate the different job duties that they're given with those highest values so that they feel intrinsic motivation, and you don't have to keep asking them to do their job.
Micromanaging and motivating people by pushing stuff uphill.
Yeah. Yep.
Like I say, if you have to motivate people extrinsically, you haven't got, there's not a match. When they're matched, you don't have to do that. I say, I teach research and write. Everything else is delegated. I don't get engaged in that. I don't have to even deal with that because I just do what I do. I learned a long time ago to stay out of people's lives. Quit trying to impose what your values are onto other people. Let them excel at what they love.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it didn't occur to me until we were just talking now that I could do something along these same lines with not just my staff, but with my clients too.
If you do, they can't wait to refer, and they can't wait to do more business.
Yeah. Yeah, really cool. Really, really cool. So how does this fit in with the ideas of goal setting? Let's say that you're running the marketing department, or you're running a campaign, you're running the business, and you need to set goals for the quarter. How does the goal setting process differ because you have a sense of their all the team members and all the different constituents values hierarchy?
Well, if you ask them, if you tell them, here's the goals and here's the punishment if you do it, and here's the reward if you do it, you'll use extrinsic motivation.
Mm-hmm.
But if you ask them a simple question, here's our objective and here's your value. How could this objective help you fulfill your value? And help them see it so it's not an external motivation, it's an intrinsic calling. If they can answer that question, the more they answer the question, the more they're doing it because they want to do it, not because you imposed it. So it's about asking questions. The quality of our life is based on the quality of the questions we're asking. If we ask questions that help them see how what you want to do helps them fulfill what they are intrinsically driven to do, they'll do it automatically. You don't have to remind them or motivate them or retrain them and stuff because they'll just keep wanting to do something that helps them get what they want. But can I share a story about that?
Yeah.
That's a good story. Yeah. So I had a lady that used to work for me. She's passed away now, but she worked for me until about 2009. And she was a single mom and had a beautiful daughter who wanted to be an equestrian vet. She wanted to help work with horses and loved horses and wanted to be a veterinary medicine. And this lady was working for me and saving a portion of it for college for her daughter and living by herself with her daughter. And her daughter had a special function on a particular weekend. And it was also a time when I had a big convention in Las Vegas. And I knew that was a significant week from business. And so I knew that because I wanted her to be there if possible because she's the best salesperson. And I knew she wouldn't want to be there if she didn't take her daughter. But I knew her daughter had a special event. So everybody makes decisions based on what they believe will give them the greatest advantage or disadvantage at any moment in time according to what they value. That's how we make decisions. So I went to her and I said, Linda, if I'm not mistaken, you have a special event coming up with your daughter here in a few weeks. She says, yeah, she's looking forward to it. I said, that happens to be the same weekend where I happen to have this big conference in Las Vegas where there's 8,000 people. They're going to be listening to me speak. And I really would love your expertise there helping sell. And I know that that's a weekend and that's going to cause a bit of a turmoil because what I would want and what your daughter want and what you would want is not clear. So I want to make sure that, because I know people make decisions based will give them a more advantage and disadvantage. So I just want to make this offer to you, just in case you would like it. I looked up and I researched and found out that there's an equestrian college there, a school there for people that are going to be veterinary specialists dealing with equine. And it's a fine college there. And I have no idea if you would have an idea where your daughter wants to go, but I just thought if you would like to go and visit that, I'd like to have you come up and join me and spend an extra day going and taking you and your daughter to that location just in case it's something that would be meaningful. I also would love to have you come and join me and sell because nobody can sell like you. You make a huge difference. And I would like to do something special because I know that your daughter's having that special event. I'd like to offer it where every sale you do, I'm going to match a certain portion of it, and it's going to go towards your college fund for your daughter. I would also like you to have an extra day, Saturday night, because I'll speak Friday, but you're going to stay Saturday and Sunday. And Saturday night, you can go out and to any one of the shows you and your daughter would like to go to. I'll even pay for 2. And out of the 8,000 so doctors that will be there, probably more than half of them, about 70% of them are men. And of that, probably about 14 or 15% of them are men that are eligible and you're single. And so I know when they're going to come up to my table, they're going to see you. And just in case you would like to meet some nice man there that would like to maybe take you out and have a drink or whatever, I just want to let you know that they're going to be there. And this is an opportunity for you to be exposed to a whole lot of men in a short period of time. And you'll be the center of attention because they're going to be coming to that table and they're going to be meeting you and saying hi to you. And I just know by doing that, you will score and I will score because they're going to want to buy from you because you're so amazing at selling. And they're going to possibly perk up when they see you because you're an attractive woman. But I'd like to offer that. Now, if that doesn't work for you, I totally understand. But I just want to make sure that if you believe that the issue with your daughter is more important, then you will make that decision. But I just want to make sure. Now, if that's not sufficient, let me know, because I might even add a few more bonuses in there, because I want her to be able to go to the school she wants. I want to be able to help you fund this college, and I want you to be able to help do it. And the more we do, a portion that's there, and she can come and help, and she can make a bonus too. So she'll have extra spend money on the weekend if she'd like to do it. If she'd like to go to Las Vegas for Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Well, actually get there Thursday night, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, and go to an equestrian school and just to see all the things, and maybe go visit a ranch. So I talked in terms of her values and totally gave it up to her to whatever she did. I had a backup person to do it, and they would be second of making sales, but I would rather have her. Now, I spoke in terms of her values, her daughter's education, her daughter's goal, men, extra bonuses, Las Vegas, a little fun action, going to a school for her. I knew those were her values. So I cared enough to communicate in her values. And she talked to her daughter, spoke in similar lines to me. And daughter said, if I could do that, I'll pass up on this thing there. If I could go see the school and I could go into Las Vegas. And they came. And we knocked it out of the ballpark on sales. And she got to go see this equestrian school, which inspired her to do well in school. And she ended up with $4,000 extra towards her college fund that day.
That's great.
So if I care enough about the people to communicate what I want in terms of what they want, they're more likely to make a decision, not because they have to, but because they love to.
Mm-hmm.
And that's way more engaging and more inspiring, and will get more sales and more appreciation of the company. They'll appreciate the company if somebody does that for them than if they have to do it.
Yeah. And she didn't feel, it sounds like she didn't feel forced or arm
No,
twisted.
there's no force.
Yeah. Yeah, that's great. This
No, but see, if there's more disadvantages than advantages, she'll feel forced.
Yeah.
But if I give her enough advantages in her values, she'll feel grateful. The difference between manipulation and caring is how many advantages in their values do you provide?
Yeah.
Bottom line. If you care about them, you'll make sure they win out of it.
So everybody listening should do this values determination process, which takes what, about 15, 20 minutes, something like that on the website, and it's free?
I would say 30.
Okay, 30
Give
minutes.
them 30 minutes because that way they're not rushing it.
Yeah. And not only should our listener do it, or should, is according to what was Marshall Rosenberg, I guess the founder of nonviolent
Yeah, it's not a should.
Yeah, there's
not
no
a
should. Should is the most violent word in the English language, according to Marshall. But it's
Exactly.
highly recommended, if this resonates with you, to go do the values determination process for free on drdemartini.com/values. And imagine what you can do to change the world and change your company and your relationships just by having everyone that you care about take this values determination process as well. Really cool.
Yeah, I can help. I just finished a new book. I just finished 2 new books, and another one's about to come out called The 7 Secret Treasures, and a blueprint for a well-lived life.
Yep.
And in there, I talk about values, and there's a whole section on there on how to communicate effectively in values. But I believe that we have treasures sitting in there that were dormant, that we're not mining because we're not using and communicating effectively in values, and that's a cornerstone. So taking the time to do that. I don't like to use the word should or got to or have to or must or any imperative,
Yeah.
but I'd like to just share that it's an opportunity for them to be able to have a more fulfilled life and to get more of what they're wanting by helping other people get what they want. It's just it's a tool that can help them. That's all.
Well, by the time this episode airs, that book will be out. The 7 Secret Treasures, a transformational blueprint for a well-lived life, is out as of October 27th.
Yep, it's out today.
Oh, actually, October 25th. Yeah. So we're yeah, very cool, very, very cool. So yeah, get out get that book and get out there and um, get some of your loved ones and colleagues and customers and so forth to do the values determination process. Really awesome. Now, I know we're out of time, so if you had one, I don't know, little nugget to share that you haven't shared already in this interview as our last bit of wisdom for today, what would it be?
Well, the magnificence of who you are, which revolves around what's highest on your value, is more magnificent than any fantasies you'll ever impose on yourself. So you don't have to compare yourself to other people and put people on pedestals or pits. But it's not unwise to go and reflect and see that whatever you perceive in them, you have inside you. So you're not distracted by judgments. You are just inspired by the love that comes out of your heart that directs you wisely to do something extraordinary on planet Earth.
Well said. Amazing. Well, you're such a light in the world. Thank you for everything you do for humanity. And thank you for being on this show. I really value you as a friend
Thank you
and
again.
as a human.
Thank you, Steve.
Okay, so thank you, listener. Get out there and make the world a better place. We'll catch you in the next episode. I'm your host, Stephan Spencer, signing off.